Hello, I'm Hester Pren. I'm here today to talk to you about the downs in my life, because there weren't many ups. Beginning with the most important period of my life, it wasn't all pleasant. In June the year 1642, a large group of people who live in Boston gathered to witness my official act of punishment for committing the sin of adultery. Yes, I was convicted of adultery. In this time period of time, it is a serious offense, which usually results in punishment or death. But in a way, I was on the fortunate side. I was tired and then obviously convicted of my sin. But instead of beheading, or hanging, my punishment was to wear a scarlet letter A on my breast and stand on a wooden scaffold for 3 hours while people mocked me. It was tough as the days went on to have people stare at me for the A on my chest and nothing else. The birth of my daughter, Pearl, was the result of my sin. At times, she was a real pain, but she could also be considered the result of a happy mistake. Having to take care of the child in the middle of all this was sometimes very painful and hard. Sometimes Pearl can seem like a total devil child. She seldom acts like a normal child. But on the positive side, she's good company to have around sometimes when I'm all alone. Another downside is my punishment. Having the A on my chest really has its disadvantages. Having to go through the day-to-day life crisis, it can be very stressful on a woman. When I go into town, I have to deal with people staring at the A on my breast. It makes me very sad when I have to deal with this every day. In addition to taking care of Pearl, during her devilish state, she will stare at the A on my chest and throw things at it, the letter A, saying bad things about it. She is only 2 years old and already she knows the meaning of what the A means. But at the same time that the A damages me, it also makes me stronger. It helps me deal with the entire crisis, and it is good for the future as well, because it makes me more persevering as a woman. My daily life is a continuous struggle. I still have to live as a normal woman does, only I have a nail on my chest because I was convicted of a major crime. I still have terminal living, so I can take care of Pearl and myself. My normal job consists of selling different things for people. The reason I'm wearing the A as a hardship is because now, when I do make things for people, I don't get paid as much as I would if I had not adulterated. Pearl now won't have the best life to grow up with me because she won't have all the life's necessities at that age. We don't live in a special house. It is a small cabin-like building, which is just enough room for the two of us and nothing much else. I am a seamstress, so I make clothes for people, as I mentioned earlier. I sew clothes for them to wear to funerals or other special events. But one thing that I cannot make is clothes for weddings, obviously, because of my sin. That makes it improbable. I have worked many times for the governor and his mistress. I have made a pair of white gloves for him once. It was actually a cover-up for something, but that comes later. And for his mistress, I would often make her dresses and clothing of that sort. Usually the pay I would get would not be very much. Often it would be a basket of eggs or a loaf of bread. Towards the end of this story, I made Governor Winthrop's deathbed robe. The clothing made for the dead was usually my most produced work. Chillingworth was a man of his own words mostly. He was a resident physician and an excellent doctor. Whenever my little Pearl or I was sick, we would always go to visit him. He knew exactly the remedy to make it better. Chillingworth also had a dark side at times, but towards the end he would take care of the father of my child. Chillingworth took care of Dimmesdale when he was sick. He discovered something on Dimmesdale's chest in Chillingworth. He was awestruck, losing himself in laughter. Towards the end, he became more of a devilish type of creature. His personality had really changed since I had first met him. Dimmesdale was the father of Pearl. He was very quiet about the ordeal and what had happened once the rest of the town knew. He never admitted what he had done and that he was involved in all of the sin. And he always kept that secret until one day. He became sicklier. Whenever I saw him, he eventually felt the pain was too much to endure, and he decided to show his sin. He shows it in a very familiar way. Dimsdale, late one night, went out to the scaffold and stood there for a while, and then screamed out the pain he could feel. Some people witnessed his action. Reverend Wilson, who was at the deathbed of Governor Winthrop, was the first to pass by. He did not show any sign of knowing that Dimsdale was up there on the scaffold. Next, Pearl and I walked by. He cried out our names. We heard them and walked over to the scaffold. He then said, "Come and join me where we can all share this sin together." Pearl and I then ascended the ladder and stood with him at last. All three of us members of the affair were up there on the scaffold together. Pearl then asked Dimsdale if he would stand with them noontide with them tomorrow. He replied no. Then Chillingworth walked by and told Dimsdale he must be getting home. He didn't even acknowledge that Pearl and I were on the scaffold next to him. Oh, and that thing Chillingworth saw on Dimsdale's chest earlier was the A, burned into his chest, Dimsdale's, to symbolize the sin with I. After Chillingworth said that I left a brightly A in the sky, shine very bright. Then a town sexton came by and asked them if he had seen the A. The sexton said that it is an honor, probably in honor of the late Governor Winthrop, but we all knew what it really meant. In the end, what ultimately happens is I tell Dimsdale to meet me in the woods, and we will wait and talk about the future. We then later meet up. I got to the woods first and told little Pearl to run off and play with the animals in the woods, but not to go too far because we don't want to lose her. Then I saw Dimsdale walking towards me. I noticed that he has gotten even worse. He now must use a staff to help him walk around. We then discuss what we should do with our lives. I tell him that he should just lie down and basically die. After Dimsdale's death, I decided to leave Boston. Chillingworth died, but he did leave a will, giving Pearl a great deal of money, making her a wealthy woman. I decided to leave Boston, and I counseled for other women. I requested to be buried next to Dimsdale, the man I loved, Pearl's father. As harsh as it may seem, it kind of needs to happen. Well, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening to my life story.